Hello art lovers! Welcome to my free drawing tutorial channel. In this video, I want to teach you how to draw this professional, three-dimensional, and detailed lip. You can download the original design from the Telegram channel link in the description. You must have watched the previous videos to draw this drawing and practiced well so that you can draw this drawing well. To draw this lip, we must focus and be very careful on the details. At first, when we draw the light grays, I use a soft brush, number 0, and to continue drawing the details, I use a charcoal pencil. The charcoal pencil must be sharpened regularly because the details are very thin and fine, and we must use the thin, double-sided line technique. We draw all the details in this lip using a charcoal pencil. In the next step, I use a hard soft brush, number 12, to determine the overall volume of the lip. We move forward section by section, drawing all the details first with a charcoal pencil and then with a flat brush. You must have learned all these techniques in the previous videos by now. If not, check out the previous videos. For the parts where the distance between the light and dark part is narrow and small, I use a small flat brush. And for the smaller parts where I want to define the black, I use a filbert brush. Then I move up to the lower lip and repeat the exact same steps here, drawing all the details in fine dark lines that I see with a charcoal pencil. I draw many parts of the lip texture using a charcoal pencil. There is a lot of detail in this part, and you need to make sure that your charcoal pencil is always sharp and add any dark lines that you see. Remember, in this type of drawing, we only use thin, double-sided lines. Here I use a soft, flat brush, size 0. With this brush, I define the darkness and lightness of the lip lines. After defining the overall volume of the lips and the shadows of the smaller parts added with the filbert brush, I gradually move on to the inside of the mouth. In this section, we also draw the tongue, which is full of details and dark, fine lines, all of which I draw with a charcoal pencil. Notice that there are some lines that are lighter gray, and I use the same charcoal pencil to draw them, but I use very little hand pressure. One of the main skills required to draw very professional works is controlling hand pressure. If you haven't achieved this skill yet, go to the Shadows and Contrast video and practice that video over and over again. I even draw the dark shadow of the tongue with a charcoal pencil. I also go for the darks inside the mouth and the tongue piercing and teeth. Here, I draw all the details and dark lines with a charcoal pencil. And in the next step, I define the overall volume of the work with a filbert brush. I also use the same brushes for the teeth. That is, first, I draw the darks with a charcoal pencil, and then I soften it with a brush and some of the shadows with a filbert brush. I add the background with a flat painting brush number 50 and a series of grays around it with a filbert brush. Note that the size of the painting brush may differ in different countries. For example, in my country, this brush is number 50, but in other countries, you may know this brush as a 3-inch brush. So pay attention to its size in the video and then proceed to purchase it. I go to the highlights on the lips and draw them using all the erasers and skills we have already acquired in using erasers. The highlights that are not very bright are drawn using a paste eraser and a pencil eraser. And in the parts where the highlights are brighter, I use a mechanical eraser and an electric eraser. I draw the dark parts that are not very black with a pencil, that is, a simple B6 pencil. The highlights that are very bright and exist in the form of spots and dots, I draw with an electric eraser. And the darkness that needs to be drawn again, I draw with a filbert brush number 6. I dip the brush into the charcoal powder and drag it wherever it needs to be darkened. Be careful to keep the parts that you need to remain bright. Draw a very light shadow so that later you can create the light with an eraser. Again, I use a charcoal pencil for the areas that need to be dark but are thin. And again, the electric eraser for the highlights. As you can see, I am using different tools at the same time and drawing the darks and the highlights at the same time and moving forward from here on out. And in professional drawings, you need to be able to use all the tools at the same time, and you need to have the necessary skills to use and decide where to use which tool. So, sometimes you need to use the tools in different places at your own discretion and see what result you get. I draw the light part, that is, in the corner of the lip, completely with the electric eraser because there is a lot of light in this area and it needs to be quite bright. Some of these bright spots have a dark shadow next to them, which I use a charcoal pencil to add, and I also use a filbert brush for the shadows around them. After I have created all the lights, I check the whole work again, and wherever it needs to be darkened, I add them again, using a charcoal pencil or powder and a brush. For the lights that are linear, I use a mechanical eraser. But for the lights that are thicker, I use an electric eraser. Note that I use all types of erasers to create these lights, and in this type of professional, realistic work, it is necessary to check the work from start to finish, over and over again, and add shadows, lights, darkness, and highlights. Now, I move on to designing the inside of the mouth and the darkness between the teeth and on the tongue. First, I use a filbert brush, and then a rough, flat brush, drawing wherever I need texture and dark shadows. For the parts where I want the border of darkness to be clear, I use a charcoal pencil. Then I move on to the lights and using the erasers again. You should know by now what kind of eraser you should use to create each type of light. Pay close attention to the original photo and choose the desired tool based on that. You should have also acquired an extraordinary skill in seeing by now, and have learned that seeing is very important, so pay close attention to the original photo. I create soft lights with a paste eraser and sharp lights with an electric eraser. Wherever necessary, I use a charcoal pencil again and create dark lines next to the bright lines. In many parts, I can also take help from a blender and create thin shadows. And again, these very bright lights that are drawn with an electric eraser. The metal of the piercing on the tongue needs more darkness, so I use a charcoal pencil to create darkness and use a blender to blur its shadows. For some shadows, I use a flat brush number 0 and use erasers, especially an electric eraser, to add sharp highlights. I move on to the teeth, and as you can see, I use a charcoal pencil and a soft flat brush at the same time. And to draw the highlights, I pay attention to the size and amount of light and choose the eraser based on that. Pay attention to the darkness of your drawing so that you can draw it realistically. At the end of the work, I use a white pen to draw very, very bright highlights. Note that I only use a pen when there is a completely white light in my drawing. So I always do this at the end of the work and draw very bright and clear highlights in the work with a white pen. Watch this video again and be sure to draw this design twice. If you have any questions, you can write in the comments section so that I can answer your question. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like the video so that I can produce more videos for you with more energy and teach you. Good luck, friends!